Hello, Djordje Romanic here. Welcome to Fundamentals of Weather and Climate playlist. An air parcel is an imaginary blob of air, volume of air, that we use to study atmospheric dynamics and thermodynamics and various processes in the atmosphere. It is used as a concept to ask a question. If this is ambient atmosphere, and in this ambient atmosphere we have this air parcel, what will happen with this air parcel? Now, to answer that question, what will happen, we have to give some physical properties to this air parcel. So depending on what we want to study, we can say temperature of this air parcel, Tp, is such and such. Density of this air parcel is such and such. Mixing ratio of this air parcel is such, and so on. And I introduced all these concepts, of course, in my previous videos. Air parcel of these properties is situated in atmosphere that has temperature Ta, ambient atmosphere, density ρA, mixing ratio Ra, and so on, whatever you want to study. And now you ask yourself a question, what will happen? And that's what we will study in this chapter on the playlist. But to study what will happen with this air parcel in ambient atmosphere, we have to introduce the concept of air parcel. It's also important to understand here that we assume now, when we introduce the air parcel theory, the air parcel concept, we assume that these quantities, or any other quantity, is uniform across air parcel. That means it's not that I have temperature of the parcel left here and temperature on the parcel on the right side over here. No. There is no variation of temperature or anything else across the air parcel. Is that assumption? Yes, that's assumption. But that's often in atmospheric physics and physics in general. You have to make some assumptions to have any progress, because the atmosphere, the environment, is so complicated that you cannot account for everything. We will release some of these assumptions as we progress in our playlist, but generally this is assumption of air parcel. Now, next question you might ask me, well, you said blob of air and plotted here a circle. What should be geometry of this air parcel? It's arbitrary. You can choose any geometry that best suits your problem. So indeed, if we are studying, for example, clouds and convection, then we assume, often, not always, we assume that air parcel is a sphere. This is usually called a thermal. And you say, if this air parcel is warmer than the environment, how it is going to go up? In that case, it's most suitable to assume that the air parcel is a spherical shape. If you study, for example, the pressure gradient force, and you want to derive the equation for the pressure gradient force, and I did it in one of my previous videos, then it's most suitable to assume that the parcel of air is of a rectangular shape. If we want to study some downdraft in the atmosphere, typically downdrafts are associated with precipitation regions from the clouds. If we study downdrafts, then it is most convenient to assume that the parcel of air has cylindrical shape. Whatever you want and suits your problem the best, okay? And then here is the surface of the Earth. Here is, let's say, height, Z. You pick one of these parcels, let's say this one, you put it here, and now you start moving this parcel of air in the ambient atmosphere, and you ask yourself a question. What will happen with temperature, pressure, density, and so on of this parcel of air? And that's what we will study in this part of the playlist. It boils down to the so-called stability theory. And that will be a great deal on this channel. But before we can study that, we have to know what is an air parcel. And now you know it. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Check my other videos, share videos, comment below them. That helps a lot. And until next video, goodbye.